What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome back to today's video, which is always one of my favorite videos that we get to do every single year, and that is my way too early 2020 NFL mock draft. My mock drafts that I do way too early. For me, it's like turning the page and getting ready and starting to think about the upcoming college football season, which I love to do. I love college football. I'm thinking maybe at some point next week, now that we know all the results of the 2019 draft, maybe I revisit my way too early 2019 draft and we kind of just look at some of the bad picks there. But for right now, we're talking about 2020. Now for this draft list, I pretty much went with like what the consensus is for these mock drafts that you'll see all over the interwebs, where you just go by Vegas for how they predict teams are going to finish. So if I'm not personally dogging any of your guys' teams. I'm just going off of what Vegas has told me. So with that being said, without further ado, at pick number 1, we have the Miami Dolphins, and I am selecting Chase Young, defensive end from Ohio State. I think the Miami Dolphins need to draft edge badly in this draft. I thought they should have done it last year. They should have done it last week in 2019. But they got Christian Wilkins from Clemson. That was a great pick. But I even think if Charles Harris, the former first-round pick, steps up in 2019, you still need another premier edge rusher. Chase Young is the safest defensive end in this class at 6'5", 265, brings prototypical speed. He's coming off 14.5 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, and 5 pass breakups in 2018. His play style, while he's built like Bosa, when I watch him play, he kind of reminds me a little bit of J.J. Watt. Now, I definitely think, seeing how J.J. Watt has developed, I don't necessarily think that's a super fair comparison, but maybe more so J.J. Watt when he was coming out of Wisconsin, not the finished product that he is today or was a couple years ago. That's a very close comparison here for Chase Young. I think he's a great player. And would be, I think more and more as we get through the 2020 draft process, you're probably going to see him penciled in as the first overall pick for a considerable amount of mock drafts. Going to pick number 2, we have the Arizona Cardinals, where I am selecting Walker Little, offensive tackle from Stanford. If Kyler Murray is your franchise quarterback, okay, but you don't have a franchise tackle, and that is what you need to pair. As soon as you get the QB, you pair him with the franchise tackle. We have a lot of this style of pick in my mock draft. When you look at Walker Little, he's as prototypical of a left tackle as you can get at 6'7", 315 pounds. He's been a top 3 Pac-12 offensive tackle since he was a true freshman a couple years ago. I think he's going to be a lock to be a top 5 pick. And I think when you look at the Arizona Cardinals roster, they do have DJ Humphries, who's a solid tackle. They brought in Marcus Gilbert, more so I think is like a stopgap guy. He just struggles to stay healthy. Gator made, though. Go Gators. I think Walker Little has to be the pick here for the Arizona Cardinals. And you know what? Hey, maybe not, though. Maybe not, because if you have a 6'7" tackle, maybe that short little man playing quarterback in Kyler Murray won't be able to see over him. But who am I talking? I'm only like a couple centimeters, we call that in Canada, taller than Kyler Murray. So what am I even talking about? Moving to pick number 3, we have the Oakland Raiders, and I am selecting Justin Herbert, quarterback from Oregon. The Oakland Raiders have an out in Derek Carr's contract, so they can pretty much get out of that and get their brand new franchise quarterback as they move to Las Vegas. Justin Herbert would have been my quarterback 1 in 2019, and until proven otherwise, he's my quarterback 1 in 2020. Brings elite size at 6'6", 230 pounds, has a big arm, good accuracy, can move inside the pocket, can scramble. He really is the perfect player to bring to Oakland as I need to get that hype, that excitement as they move to Vegas. Moving to pick number 4, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, and I am selecting Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback from Alabama. Assuming Andy Dalton is a failed recovery project in 2019 for new head coach Zach Taylor, Dalton can be cut in 2020 with no dead cap. They're probably, even if he does all right, they're not going to bring him back, I don't think, at that huge number. It's probably going to be his last year, unless, Andy Dalton can have a nice little resurgence, 30-plus touchdowns, maybe lead the Bengals into the playoffs, which, could happen. But when you look at Tua Tagovailoa, he's a polarizing quarterback prospect, but his arm talent is legit, and he can make some plays with his feet. I think the league is starting to come around. Obviously, not a bold take to these sub-6'2" QBs. I think Tua's almost 6'1". He's between 6 feet and 6'1". But you look at Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and even before that, Russell Wilson. It's a short, friendly QB league right now. So, depending on how you feel about Tua, this could be a polarizing project, but I think he will be the second quarterback selected, and the Bengals would be a great fit, assuming they move on from Andy Dalton. Going to pick number 5, we have the Buffalo Bills. I was selecting Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver from Alabama. The Buffalo Bills' weapons for Josh Allen in 2019 still aren't where they need to be, I believe, to help in Josh Allen's development. He still lacks a wide receiver 1. Jerry Jeudy is a complete wide receiver. He has the hands, route running, speed, proven production. He had 1,300 yards, 14 touchdowns in 2018. He's an absolute baller. This would be a home run, very easy pick for the Buffalo Bills, who in my opinion had an outstanding and the best draft in 2019. Followed up, starting out 2020 with Jerry Jeudy. Home runs after home runs, baby. Pick number 6, we have the New York Jets, and very similar to the Arizona Cardinals, I'm selecting Trey Smith, offensive tackle from Tennessee. You need to have your franchise tackle for Aaron Donald. The tackles right now for the Jets are as weak as anyone in the NFL, and they drafted Chuma Edoga from USC in the 3rd round. He's a project, but even if he does pan out, you still need another tackle. When you look at Trey Smith, he's a complete offensive tackle, and if he does clear the medical portion of the draft process, which has kind of been a little bit of a red flag, if you will, at Tennessee, he should be a lock for a top 15 pick, if not top 10. I mean, he was like one of the most hyped up high school tackles. He came in and played very, very well for Tennessee early on, and like I said, if they can clear the medical portion, he should be a lock for top 10, and great fit, great pick for the Jets, protecting Mr. Darnold, and now also run blocking for Le'Veon Bell. Go to pick number 7, we have the Detroit Lions. I'm selecting Christian Fulton, cornerback from LSU. The Detroit Lions failed to find a suitable partner next to Darius Slay in the 2019 draft, unless Amani Oruwariye, the corner from Penn State, becomes the steal of the draft. When you look at Christian Fulton, he's another member of DBU. I put that in quotations because I don't always agree with that. A lot of scouts seem to like him more than Greedy Williams, who was a 2nd-round pick for the Cleveland Browns in 2019. A surprising slip. He had a 2-year suspension from NCAA because he tampered with his drug test, even though the test wasn't positive. So, I mean, I don't know where exactly that's going to fall on the scale of red flags. But you look at prospects, Fulton is a legitimate, I like this thing, at minimum, even though I'm putting him at 7, like a top 15 corner. Very, very good. And would be a great fit for Detroit to get another big-time playmaker in that secondary next to Big Play Slay. Moving to pick number 8, we have the Washington Redskins, where I'm selecting Dylan Moses, linebacker from Alabama. The Redskins right now have a wild card on their defense, more particularly at the linebacker spot with Reuben Foster. But assuming that he's all good and get to play sooner and later, stays out of trouble, they have a linebacker with a very high ceiling. So to find another Alabama prospect to pair with him will be just too much for Washington to handle, because they are pretty much an Alabama pipeline at this point. They go every single draft, drafting multiple Alabama players. And when you look at Dylan Moses, man, he is an elite athlete with sideline-to-sideline ability, comfortable in coverage, loves to hit. And I think if you can get Reuben Foster to the level that we all thought he was going to be after that rookie year with the 49ers, you pair that with a Dylan Moses, I'm starting to get a little bit annoyed with what they be doing there in Washington as a Philadelphia Eagle fan. Going to pick number 9, we have the Denver Broncos, and I'm selecting C.J. Henderson, cornerback from Florida. The Denver Broncos have an apparent Chris Harris issue, which looks like he'll be moving on sooner than later, which would create a big hole in the Broncos secondary. They have Yiadom as depth from Boston College. I think he's actually an all-right prospect, but I don't know if he necessarily can be that long-term starter. So when you look at C.J. Henderson, try to put my Florida Gator bias aside. He's been one of the best corners in the SEC since he was a true freshman. He has elite size at 6'1", 190. He has ball hawking ability, and he's a strong and willing tackler in the secondary, which more and more teams want than just say the lockdown corner that doesn't like to tackle. That's what we saw with the fall with Greedy Williams this year, and I don't think you're going to have those issues with C.J. Henderson. Go to pick number 10, we have the Tennessee Titans, and I'm selecting Derek Brown, defensive tackle from Auburn. The Tennessee Titans finally get their nose tackle to complete their defensive line with Jarrell Casey and 2019 first-round pick Jeffrey Simmons. I think both those guys will play defensive end. Derek Brown has some great tape and proven production in the last 2 years at Auburn. 20 TFLs, 7.5 sacks from the inside. And some scouts believe he'll have a similar freaky combine that Dexter Lawrence had from Clemson in 2019, which should solidify his stock as a fringe top 10 player, and it'll be a great fit for that Titans defense. Going to pick number 11, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm selecting Jake Fromm, quarterback from Georgia. Jameis Winston's going to have a really great year, I think, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Bruce Arians not to move on and just fail to re-sign and let him hit the free agency market. When you look at Jake Fromm, he's a safe quarterback with a great base. He has good mechanics, prototypical size. He has big game experience. And I think Bruce Arians is the perfect quarterback guru to help develop Jake Fromm into an NFL caliber pocket passer. Coming from Georgia, he's not asked to do a whole lot when it comes to throwing the ball. You just got to hand the ball off. But you see some of those really, really nice plays from Jake Fromm. And I'll admit I'm not as high on him as I am the other QBs. I don't think he's, if I'm comparing him, I mean, obviously he's a little bit better, I think, than maybe like a Daniel Jones or a Drew Lock. I'd put him ahead of that. But in terms of some of the hype he's getting, I'm not necessarily on that hype train, but I do see the potential there. And if he can go to a place that has a Bruce Arians, a guy that has proven success developing quarterbacks, you might have something there, Tampa. Give me Jake Fromm with Arians than trying to salvage Jameis Winston with Arians. Going to pick number 12 with the San Francisco 49ers, and I'm selecting Grant Delpit, safety from LSU. John Lynch must have been gutted that their 2019 draft didn't have a safety fall to them, and missing out, I think, on Earl Thomas in free agency. Grant Delpit could arguably be the best player in this draft, but unfortunately he's at a position that isn't valued enough in today's NFL, so that the fact that he slipped to 12, it's going to be an absolute steal for the 49ers. Grant Delpit, if I had to find a comparison, he's in that Derwin James mode. He can do everything that you want a modern safety to do. He's coming off 5 picks last year from LSU. He's good in coverage. He loves to hit. He has that prototypical freaky size that you can have him at safety, have him play a little bit of nickel linebacker. He is just a complete player. And I'll tell you right now, if there's one dream pick for me as a Philadelphia Eagle fan in this upcoming draft, it would probably be Grant Delpit from LSU. But the Niners get him. Going to pick number 13, we have the Carolina Panthers, and I'm selecting CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver from Oklahoma. The Panthers wide receiver room is about as weak as any team in the NFC, and really outside of DJ Moore, there's not that much upside to the group as a whole. CeeDee Lamb is a burner who also has some contested catch ability, 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns in 2018 for Oklahoma. I think he's a great compliment what you have in DJ Moore. Lamb will be your burner on the outside versus a guy like DJ Moore that you can move all over the field. Ideally, you probably want him going across the middle to give Cam Newton just a lot of weapons here between Lamb and DJ Moore. Go to pick number 14 with the New York Giants, and I'm selecting Tyler Biadasz, center from Wisconsin. The Giants need to continue to build up their offensive line as they remain a run-first team. Everything's going to go through Saquon Barkley, and you might have Daniel Jones starting in 2020. Get him, his Peyton Manning to Jeff Saturday. Could be Daniel Jones to Biadasz. Biadasz might be the most talented offensive lineman in the draft, and he is an instant starter for the Giants in the center of that line. And it's a Dave Gettleman pick here to go old school and build up the offensive line. Going to pick number 15, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, where I'm selecting Laviska Shenault, wide receiver from Colorado. The Jags could have grabbed a wide receiver early in 2019, but opted not to. As a fan of Nick Foles, looking at their team right now, I think he needs more weapons to succeed in Jacksonville. And we look at Shenault, he's a powerful wide receiver at 6'2", 225 pounds. He's a great athlete. They don't just use him as a wide receiver. He had 5 rushing touchdowns in 2018. And I think he would complement what they already have there on the Jags roster. Their best wide receiver in D.D. Westbrook. D.D. Westbrook moves all over the field. A guy like Shenault can do that too. I kind of view Shenault as Mike Williams from Clemson. Mike Williams last year, he got drafted as that big jump ball guy, but even last year with the Chargers, they had him running some gimmicky run plays that were working with a lot of success. I think Shenault can follow in that mold. Going to pick number 16, we have the Houston Texans. I'm selecting Alaric Jackson, offensive tackle from Iowa. The Houston Texans need to continue to build up their offensive line on top of their 2019 draft haul of Titus Howard and Max Sharping. I actually think both those guys are very intriguing picks and should help that offensive line, but you need to completely rebuild up this O-line. You might have the center spot solidified, so you still need a tackle and a guard. When you get Jackson, he offers prototypical size as a left tackle. Iowa offensive linemen are almost always pro-ready, and I think a very strong 2019 from Jackson should lock him in as a first-round pick in what I believe is a pretty strong offensive tackle class. Going to pick number 17, we have the Cleveland Browns, where I'm selecting Trey Adams, offensive tackle from Washington, getting a little bit of run here on tackles. The Cleveland Browns' weak link is offensive tackle, and no amount of abundance of skill position players is going to hide that. Trey Adams is a prototype at 6'8", 305 pounds. He's a plug-and-play day one tackle starter, I think, on the Browns. I think he would be a higher draft pick if he didn't have an injury history. I think that might be the tiebreaker between him and maybe an Alaric Jackson or a Trey Smith for where his draft stock is going to fall to. But I think if he can stay healthy, he might emerge as the best tackle in this year's draft class. But there is some assumed risk as he has had 2 years cut short due to injury. Going to pick number 18, we have the Atlanta Falcons, where I'm selecting A.J. Apenza, defensive end from Iowa. When you look at the Falcons, Vic Beasley's contract is up, and with Tack McKinley having those off-the-field issues, edge could very quickly become a top priority for the Falcons in this draft. Apenza is a powerful, relentless edge rusher who should post huge numbers finally as a full-time starter this upcoming season for Iowa, and I think he's a great fit for a Dan Quinn defense. Going to pick number 19, we have the Seattle Seahawks, and I'm selecting Raekwon Davis, defensive lineman from Alabama. The Seattle Seahawks need to find some clarity, some stability on that defensive line with all the turnovers they've had in the first couple years. When you look at Raekwon Davis, I think he's best player available in this scenario and great value. I rate him much higher than my 19th prospect in this year's draft. He's scheme flexible, can play either D-tackle or defensive end on that line for Seattle, very similar to how they used Michael Bennett in those NASCAR packages. And I think Raekwon Davis is a great fit at pick 19 to Seattle. Going to pick number 20, we have the Indianapolis Colts, where I'm selecting Nick Coe, defensive tackle from Auburn. when you look at the Colts roster, I don't see a lot of real big needs coming into this draft, so I feel like they're just going to go best player available at a somewhat premier position on the defensive line. Nick Coe is a slightly undersized defensive tackle, but he's coming off a huge 2018 where he had 13.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, and a lot of scouts think he will have an absolute freak of a combine, which could potentially shoot his stock up beyond this 20th pick and make it unattainable for the Colts to select him. So I think Indianapolis are going to look either D-line or wide receiver in this first round. But for right now, I like Nick Coe there going to the center of that defense. Going to pick number 21, we have the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm selecting Anfernee Jennings, linebacker from Alabama. Baltimore is kind of like mini Washington in terms of their love for Alabama players, and they love Alabama linebackers even more. They've got, C.J. Mosley, Tim Williams just over the last couple of years. I think it continues here in 2020. With Anfernee Jennings. Jennings could be poised to have a breakout year for Alabama and is a perfect scheme fit for the Baltimore Ravens defense that needs to continue and improve their edge. No more T-Sizzle. You don't have a sure thing in Tim Williams. You still got like Tyus Bout, like guys like that. They're not sure things. Bringing in another guy like Jennings to just add more competition to the position, I think, would be key. Going to pick number 22 with the Dallas Cowboys, where I'm selecting Colby Parkinson, tight end from Stanford. The Cowboys got Jason Witten to return and then just decided to ignore the tight end position in the 2019 draft. You probably got one more year out of Witten. You're going to need a new starter. Parkinson is coming from tight end U at Stanford. They make just pro-ready offensive tackles, pro-ready tight ends. Pretty much anyone that has their hand on the line of scrimmage on the offensive side from Stanford usually is pretty much pro-ready. And when you look at a guy like Parkinson, he looks like he was a tight end that was designed in a lab. 6'7", he's a good athlete with great receiving ability, technically sound route runner, and would be a fairly annoying pick as a Philadelphia Eagle fan for the Dallas Cowboys to land. Moving to pick number 23, we have the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm selecting Khaleke Hudson, safety from Michigan. The Eagles really do value the safety position. You could see that with the big contracts they've handed out to Malcolm Jenkins and Rodney McLeod over the last couple of years. And really, at that safety spot, there's pretty much a fair chance that we don't know what's going to be on our safety tandems on the depth chart there. Beyond 2019, there's positional uncertainty. Malcolm Jenkins is getting older. Rodney McLeod and Andrew Sendejo are on a one-year deal. The dream for me at this pick would be trading up to get Grant Delpit, but you look at the next tier of safeties in the class, you have Khaleke Hudson and Isaiah Simmons. Either one would be fine. Maybe we'll get some nostalgia from Simmons. When was the last time we got a Clemson safety? Seemed to work out pretty well on Brian Dawkins, but ultimately I think a bigger scheme fit would be Hudson because he has experience playing that Jabril Peppers Viper linebacker role is what they call it, which is what Malcolm Jenkins does play for Philadelphia. Hudson has a little bit more in terms of coverage ability too, which Philly has liked converting corners to that safety spot. So until we see, what Jalen Mills or Rasul Douglas move to safety, there is not a lot of stability. Then 2-3 years down the road at the safety spot for the Eagles, I think now could be a year that they want to address it. Go to pick number 24 with the Green Bay Packers, where I'm selecting Travis Etienne, running back from Clemson. The Green Bay Packers have an okay run game with Aaron Jones, who I think he got arrested this offseason. And beyond that, you have some decent committee guys. But you look at Etienne, he can be their absolute game changer in the backfield that they haven't had since Eddie Lacy was in his prime as a rookie in his sophomore year 5-6 years ago. Travis Etienne has game-breaking speed, A-plus vision, and for being 200 pounds, he does not shy away from contact. He really is a scary, scary idea to have him in a backfield with Aaron Rodgers, and would be an excellent fit here for the Green Bay Packers to find that balance to the offense that they've been lacking these last couple of seasons. Go to pick number 25 with the Minnesota Vikings. I'm selecting Isaiah Simmons, safety from Clemson. The Vikings decided to let Andrew Sendejo leave to go with more of a budget option in Anthony Harris, which could potentially come back to bite them in the ass. Isaiah Simmons can play safety and linebacker, making him a Swiss Army knife for that Mike Zimmer defense. Now, there are reports, I think it was literally an announcer said he has 4.3 speed. I'll believe it when I see it, but if he does come in with that, he is just a terrifying prospect. He's like if what was the guy? Obi Melifonwu was actually a good player. That is what Isaiah Simmons would be. If he does run a 4.3, goes off at the combine, could definitely shoot him out draft boards, and you'd be unattainable at 25. But for right now, I think he'd be a great fit for that Vikings defense. Going to pick number 26, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm selecting Bryce Hall, cornerback from Virginia. The Pittsburgh Steelers need more than Justin Lane to be their only cornerback with upside for the next 3 to 4 years. Artie Burns, you got Joe Hayden. Not a whole lot there. Sutton, too, from Tennessee. Hasn't really developed a whole lot. But when you look at Bryce Hall, he's a pro football focused darling, had a 91 grade in 2018. He makes plays all over the field, had just an absurd amount of pass breakups. I think he had 18. He has a high IQ and will be a great fit for that Steelers zone defense. Going to pick number 27, we have the Oakland Raiders. This pick is via the Chicago Bears, and I'm selecting Troy Dye, linebacker from Oregon. Linebacker still a glaring hole for the Raiders, who you have two linebackers that could be assumed band-aids in Vontaze Burfict and Tahir Whitehead in 2019. Therefore, meaning I don't know if they're necessarily going to be in the long-term plans for the Raiders going into 2020. When you look at Troy Dye, he's a modern-day linebacker. He's a tackle machine, an explosive athlete, very confident in coverage, and pretty much everything that you want at that position. I think he could be a day one starter for the Raiders at linebacker. Going to pick number 28, we have the LA Chargers, and I was selecting Calvin Throckmorton, offensive lineman from Oregon. Drafting a tackle from Sioux Falls in the 3rd round, Trey Pipkins won't solve the Chargers' offensive tackle issues. When you look at Throckmorton, he's an accomplished Pac-12 offensive lineman. He's been able to play tackle and guard at high levels. He brings A-plus versatility, which is what you want for your potential first-round players, and I think he could definitely slot in at right tackle as a long-term starter if they make the selection. Continue to build that O-line. I'm very surprised they devalue that position every year, even with Anthony Lynn being their coach and having that running back background. Going to pick number 29, we have the New Orleans Saints selecting Albert Okwuegbunam, tight end from Missouri. We're just going to call him Big O for now because his last name is ridiculous. We know the Saints, Jared Cook was a nice signing, but his very short-term option for the Saints at tight end. Big O is a red zone machine who could very well solidify his first-round grade with a nice combine. Right now, looking at his tape, tough to get a good read as to how well he's going to test at the athletic drills, but if he runs, gets in that low 4.6s, something like that, should help solidify his stock as a tight end. Will be a great weapon in the red zone for maybe Drew Brees if he's still the quarterback in 2020. But regardless, who's ever there, he's a nice fit. Going to pick number 30 with the New England Patriots. We're either selecting T. Higgins, wide receiver from Clemson. At this point, you can't predict that Josh Gordon will make a full return to the roster and be that starting outside wide receiver opposed N'Keal Harry for the New England Patriots going forward. T. Higgins is your height, weight, speed type wide receiver from wide receiver U, which is pretty much what Clemson has become, and he has proven production. You look at what he did in 2018, 900 yards, 12 touchdowns. I just think having him and Harry as just, freaky outside jump ball, athletic wide receivers is going to be a nightmare for teams to come, because then you just know, what are you going to do? You got to cover these guys down deep and let the Patriots and Tom Brady just chop you up across the middle. It's just going to cause opposing DCs headaches when you go up against the Patriots. Going to pick number 31, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, and I was selecting Jonathan Taylor, running back from Wisconsin. The Kansas City Chiefs going budget at running back might not continue to work with Williams, who they have there now, Carlos Hyde too. Get the guy that could take over Kareem Hunt's role. I mean, you couldn't foresee that happening, but I think to keep that balance to the RPOs, that I think was what made Mahomes' MVP season, a reality. They might have to bring back a legitimate weapon in the backfield that causes teams to bite on those RPOs. And when you look at Jonathan Taylor, he's an uber productive running back, prototypical size, A+ vision, who if he tests as expected, will probably have a legit first-round buzz. Now, the only knock about him, it could be he doesn't catch the ball a lot. And I don't think that's so much his hands, just more so it's not Wisconsin's game. I think, his profile, his scouting report is going to be very similar to Leonard Fournette, where I think he can catch when he's asked to do so. He just won't have that tape. But still, you can't ignore everything else that'll make him a legit first-round running back. Then finish up the draft at pick 32. We have the LA Rams, where I'm selecting Patty Fisher, linebacker from Northwestern. The Rams had a weak linebacking core going into the 2019 draft and only drafted Dakota Allen in the 7th round to add some depth. So I think they will look for the best linebacker available. When you look at Patty Fisher, he's an A+ tackler with great IQ and pursuit, and he has decent athleticism, enough so that I think that he's not going to get pigeonholed as that productive white college linebacker that still ends up going day 3. But if he does have a shit combine, he is what he is and slip to that range. But I think right now his tape is good enough that he could be a leader of that Rams defense going forward, along with Aaron Donald, and help solidify that linebacking core. So there you go, guys. That is my way too early 2020 mock draft. I'd love to hear what you guys think. What prospects maybe I slept on? What prospects do you guys think should be locked for the first round that didn't touch on? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit the subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.